Hi there and welcome to Gaining Vision. I'm Melanie. Have you had an opportunity to subscribe to the channel yet? If not, take a second, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to like and share. Nobody likes to talk about death, but the reality is it comes for all of us one time and another. Some sooner than others. But really what I want to talk about today is the importance of preparing for death. Yes, I'm talking about writing your wills, planning your funeral, and setting things in place for your loved ones. Too many times it's happened where people have passed away without a will. And what happens is the government takes over. So all of your loved ones are left struggling to fight with the government to get the money that you've left behind, or even your most treasured items. They're not going to go to the right people. Nobody wants to think about their own mortality, and in fact, they don't want to even talk about death. I know a lot of people joke around. I know my mom says, "Oh, just put a sticker with your name on the bottom of something if you want it." That's morbid. It is crazy, but it makes sense. Not necessarily for you to go around and mark off what you want in somebody's house, but for you as an individual to plan with a will, to ensure that the items that you love and treasure are going to the person that you want them to, or to make sure that your loved ones are left with the monies allocated for the right things, or perhaps the house or a piece of property amongst your children. Whatever the reason behind why you're leaving what to who, that doesn't matter, but the fact that it's on paper is the most important thing. Because if not, there can be a lot of issues for the family going through it. It's already going to be a very emotional time for your family, not only to focus on going through and with the will, but also then, you have to have an executor, you have to have all of those things in place to make sure that it alleviates some of the big decisions the family has to make. That includes preparing and planning your funeral, making sure you have your wishes known to your family. Do you want to be buried, or do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to be buried? Where do you want your ashes to stay? If you have any requests and thoughts or religious beliefs that you want, or customs you want adhered at your funeral, you need to let your family know that. And sometimes that's a really hard conversation to have with your family. They don't want to hear it. They get upset. So a lot of funeral homes are now planning for the future. So you can in fact go in, pick your coffin out, pick your urn out, whatever it is you want for your own self to alleviate your family from having to make these hard decisions in the moments of grief. Unfortunately, let's face facts, it's expensive. Death is a big business for money. You have to pay for your burial plot, and in Canada that can go from 15 to 25, 35,000 just for a single plot. And if you're buying for you and your spouse, that's even double. Having to decide if you want to be buried in the ground or in a mausoleum, or if you want to be cremated. The cost factor is there, and you want to make sure you have provided for that so you can pay over time to prepare for your funeral. Do you want a service at a church? Do you want a service at the funeral home? Or do you want a celebration of life? All of those things you can consider and plan so that your loved ones don't have to do it in the moments of despair and grief and loss. Also, this is important to make sure that your wishes are met. I come from an Italian background. My dad's side is Italian. And I don't know if you've ever been to an Italian funeral, but it's a very tough thing to be at. The funeral home lasts for 3 days. And the family is there. The coffin is usually open, and you have to go, you pay your respects. The Italians are very emotional people. There's a lot of crying and yelling, and the rosary is read several times. There's services that happen at each viewing night. This is hard on the family. After you've gone and paid your respects to the family, you then sit and look at the coffin, and you say your prayers, and you think of all the good times. But for other cultures, there's different traditions. So I know I've been to a lot of funerals lately, unfortunately, but there's a lot of picture arrays around the room, a lot of floral displays, as well as they even have slideshows of memories so people can watch and reminisce about the person. Some people are making a choice, instead of having flowers at the funeral home, to make a donation and a charity of the choice of somebody. This is stuff that you can plan ahead. Instead of people going and putting money out for flowers that will be there for the few days and then getting thrown out, perhaps you can choose a charity that you'd like a donation to be made to in your name. Other things you want to think about is, what kind of service do you want? Do you want, if you're Catholic, a Catholic service, or perhaps your whatever religious background, do you want a religious ceremony? Is that part of what you want? Or do you want a celebration of life? The Irish always do it well. They have a wake. So they have a big party, and it can go on for days as well. I've been to some beautiful celebrations of life where they celebrate the person's life. They say funerals are for the living, but that doesn't mean you can't have your fingerprint on it. In planning your funeral, you can choose the verses and the readings from the Bible that are read to the hymns that are played at your funeral. You can even choose to have certain types of music played at the funeral home. Perhaps you're a big Elvis fan and you want Elvis music played. You get the picture. You can make your funeral anything that you want it to be. But keep in mind, by planning ahead and paying for it ahead, you're helping your family. It's something that nobody really wants to ever plan for your own funeral. But it is something that you leave to your family. And they're going to be grieving. They're going to be going through a lot of emotions at that time. For them then to go and pick a coffin, or, and of course you hear, oh, it's only a box. It's going to be put in the ground. But then there's also the whole idea behind it. Oh, my mother or my father must have the very best. So they end up spending lots and lots of money on a casket that nobody's going to see other than at the funeral home, and it's going to be underground for the rest of your life. So really taking that choice away from them having to feel like they have to spend a lot of money on it will help your family. Yes, I get the fact that you don't want to think about your own mortality. But also, wouldn't it be nice to be a part of something, to leave a legacy behind? I know for myself, my family will always say they want certain things, but I want a celebration of life. I want people to remember me for the work I did, the person I was, and to celebrate that and have a glass of wine and toast me. Because I want people to remember me for the good things, not for the fact that I've passed. We all have the end of life in our minds at some point. And unfortunately, if you don't plan ahead, you never know what tomorrow brings, and it can happen suddenly. So having that will, planning for a funeral for the future, will not only help your spouse, your children, and any remaining family, but it also gives you the power to have the last say. I like thinking of that way because, I like to talk a lot, and as I would say to my husband, I'll have the last word. Until next time, consider your future. Consider helping your family by planning your funeral. It's not a topic we always want to talk about it, but it's something you should discuss with your family, with your spouse, to be aware. Tell them what your wants and desires are. But also keep in mind that funerals and celebrations of life are for the living, not for us as the dead. So keep that in mind, think about it, talk to your family. But until next time, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like and share. And I'll catch you next time.